is low.
All right, I call this meeting of the Pittsburg City Commission to order. Will you please rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you. We will open the meeting this evening with public input. So if you are here to provide public input on any issue, please feel free to come up to the microphone and share your concerns. Seeing none, we will close public input and move on to the consent agenda. So item J will be totally removed from the consent agenda for this evening. Are there any other items to be removed?
Item B as in boy and item I.
So items B and I. Any others? If no others, I will look for a motion to approve minus items B and I.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve. Roll call vote.
Chenoweth? Aye. Johnson?
Aye.
Munsell?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item B, approval of resolution number 1216, declaring and describing the corporate limits and boundary lines of the city of Pittsburg, Crawford County, Kansas.
Cameron, my question why I ask this is there's some concern with people that live outside the corporate boundaries and their concerns about annexation. I tried to follow 12 pages of your survey's map, and I got lost somewhere. So that's just a joke, but I hope you take that away. Basically, could you explain to the people that might be listening what this means?
What this is just every year per Kansas statute, if there's been a change in the city limits, you have to go ahead and within the calendar year after that's happened to make the statement of what the city's boundaries are. We did not have any changes in the corporate limits in this. This is just a bookkeeping in order to make sure that we do this on a routine basis so that if we were to have an annexation one year, that it would not slip by and we'd not accidentally forget to send that into the state. So we've made it our policy to submit this every year, even if the boundary has not changed.
But it hasn't changed.
No, it has not changed.
All right, I have no further questions.
Okay. If there are no other questions, I will look for a motion for approval.
I move to approve.
I second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item I, approval of ordinance number S-1058, amending ordinance number S-1051, fixing the salary and compensation of the officers and employees of the city of Pittsburg, Kansas, and authorization for the mayor to sign the ordinance on behalf of the city.
Yes, Tiffany, my question is, how do we pay for a 5% increase if we did that on every job in Pittsburgh that worked for the city? How do we plan on paying for that if it went to the 5% increase?
So what I did with the ordinance on the increases on the max ranges, that doesn't mean everyone's getting a 5%. I think we agreed to a 1% cost of living and a 2% merit. But if we left the maximums in the ordinance, some of our people are within 2 cents of being at the max, and so they would not be eligible for an increase this year, even for their cost of living, under the current ordinance. These maximums were not adjusted since like 2012 or before.
How many employees do we have that's reaching their maximum?
I didn't do a complete account, but there's certain departments. Our fire department is one department with their button up against our maximum allowable. So we need to adjust those to allow room to get their merits that have been approved.
Well, you know, I'm all about rewarding our employees for what they do, and we've been giving 2% merit-based pay since I've been on the commission, I believe. I think that's something that we've done with the thoughts of the taxpayers and how they pay for this. Now, I know throughout the year, there are ways for employees to receive extra pay when they earn a certificate or get a promotion or move to a different job.
Yes, sir.
They will get more money. And I also know that employees are given raises throughout the year, even in years that we don't schedule a 2% increase. And some of these raises are quite substantial, $5,000 and $10,000 range. And I know that's something that I don't approve of. And I think that's how we get some employees to their maximum quicker than other employees. I was an employee for the city for 25 years. I might have made it halfway across my position, but that was understandable. I understood how it worked. But I think there's a morale issue with employees that get a 2% increase that we feel is fair to the taxpayer to pay for every 2 years, when they see employees getting $5,000 and $10,000 raises, and when they in years that we're not scheduled any raises, and in the years that we are scheduled a 2% increase, they get the $10,000 plus a 2% on top of that. So I don't think it's a fair system that we do that, but that's just my opinion. So tonight I will be voting against this 5% increase. I just feel that, you know, if we stay on I understand that some of our employees are near the maximum, but I think there's a reason that happens, and I just described what my thoughts are on that. So thank you for your explanation.
Any other questions? Not, I will seek a motion for approval.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign.
No.
Motion passes. All right. City
Mayor?
Commission. Oh,
Can we, in order to wait for, I think
oh yes.
Don
yeah.
should be here for the appointment, so could we just jump to the public hearing? And
Can absolutely do that. So skipping ahead on the agenda in order to allow time for Commissioner McNay to arrive here to vote on this, we're going to move to the public hearing. So the 2018 budget amendment. The city advertised for a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, December 11th, 2018 at 5:30 p.m. in the City Commission Room, located in the Law Enforcement Center, located at 201 North Pine, to hear and answer objections of taxpayers relating to the proposed amended use of 2018 funds in the 2018 budget.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is just a year-end bookkeeping adjustment on the Fund 228, which is the Special Parks and Recreation Fund. Per state statutes, the liquor tax the city receives, 1/3 of it goes to the Special Parks and Recreation Fund. And the state, when we did the 2018 budget back in August of 2017, the state had estimated $86,000 for liquor tax, but I knew we were gonna make more than $86,000 this year because I'd already had like $78,000 after 3 quarters. They pay quarterly, so I wanted to do an adjustment so we use that money to help the operations at the golf course, offset the operating costs there. And so this is just raising the budget for 2019 for that particular fund to $110,000, because I knew I'd get somewhere around $100,000 or more, but I didn't know how much depending on when the fourth quarter came in, and I didn't get that till like yesterday from the state, and it's going to be right at $100,000. So I just got to do this so I don't have no budget violations with the state of Kansas. And so I just ask for you guys to open up a public hearing for any objections.
Sure.
And then if there's not, close the hearing and then vote on approval of the budget amendment.
Any idea why, I mean, besides me drinking more than usual,
Kansas Crossing Casino,
is that what it's?
I believe, probably.
Oh.
Great.
This is why we pay you the big bucks. All right. Well, I will go ahead and open the hearing. So if someone has comments on the proposed use of the funds, you can come up and state your name and give your opinion. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And move to discussion on the proposed use of funds. So I guess my question, you'd said that it would be used for golf course
Operations, yes.
stuff. Is that what the
It
fund
has to be
normally?
used for recreational purposes per state statute.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's what we've historically done, yes.
If no further questions, I move to approve this budget amendment.
I'll second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll move on to the special presentation for the Economic Development Quarterly Report. So the Director of Economic Development, Blake Benson, and Director of the Kansas Polymer Research Center, Daryl Pulliam, will present the Quarterly Economic Development Report.
Happy to introduce Daryl.
Who is otherwise known as Sidney Anselmi.
I believe Daryl is a little under the weather, so Sydney is stepping in for him today.
Yes.
And, go ahead.
Oh, and Sean sends his regrets. He is unfortunately in Topeka, and he would like you all to know he would rather be in Pittsburgh. So I'm sure it's a sentiment we can all share.
But obviously, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, we update you on a quarterly basis. So Sydney and I are going to run down some of our year-end numbers because it's been a very active year in terms of economic development. Lots of good things happening in our community, and obviously we're working in partnership not only with each other but the city staff each and every day. So with that, Sydney, if you want to talk about small business and entrepreneurs.
Yes, so Small Business Entrepreneurs Report, I gave you guys a printout. Sometimes it's hard to see on the screen. But this year, we really focused on tracking metrics and having some real deliverable numbers to you. So far, we have worked with 13 new businesses, and that's not complete as of now. After the end of December, we update and we survey all of our clients to say, hey, did you start a business? Did you close a business? If so, what happened? And so some of those numbers will come in after the first of the year. But so far, we're at 13 new businesses, 6 incubated businesses, which means those are businesses that are past the startup stage that are working with us to grow their business. It's a really intentional stage. We have about $1.5 million in entrepreneur investment. That's reported from the small businesses, either as bank support, personal loans, personal capital, that kind of thing has been invested in businesses. We've served 55 businesses and hit 527 hours, which is our goal was 500 this year. And in Pittsburgh, we've hosted 11 small business workshops with 102 attendees.
So it's obviously been a busy year in terms of business retention and expansion. You see there, we've worked 25 new projects this year. Of those projects, several of them are still ongoing. In fact, we're working on a couple of fairly sizable ones that we look forward to bringing to you over the next month or so that are close to fruition. Of those 25 new projects, 12 of them made it to the stage where they were considered by our Economic Development Advisory Committee, and of those, 9 made it to the City Commission for your consideration. And we've also made 33 business retention and expansion visits. Those are on-site visits with our local manufacturers, and we've got 3 good leads that have come out of those that we're working as well. Also have made a number of dilapidated property contacts. You see a lot of rehabilitation of dilapidated properties around town, and we're trying to be very proactive in reaching out to those owners.
Business attraction, I put all the numbers together, but really I think this year was highlighted by a really joint effort with us in the chamber. We submitted 15 different proposals. Those were either some that came to the university, some that came to Blake's desk, or it was some that we got together and we worked on proposals jointly. We had 9 qualified leads that came to town that I knew of. There's probably some that I'm missing. But 9 qualified leads means they came to Pittsburgh, they looked around, they decided whether or not they wanted to open here. And we had 6 that were converted into either projects that are ongoing in the city or new business. Our team attended 10 different business attraction conferences. Most of those were focused around polymers and plastics and material sciences, which is one of our Angelou target industry analysis lanes that we're really strongest in. And over the next year, we want to focus on expanding into other of those core target markets. But plastics and polymers were big, and we had a little over $1 million in research and development spending this year.
I think it's also important to point out as well that we responded to 8 Kansas Department of Commerce projects. That's up from 3 a year ago. Mm-hmm. So I think that shows that Pittsburgh is on the state's radar more than it has been in the past, and that businesses are specifically requesting information on Pittsburgh because we have responded to 8 of those so far. So I think that's a good sign of things to come moving forward.
And then just highlights from the year. Obviously, Block 22, if you have more questions about that, I can go into detail. But if you haven't been down there, please come see us, and you can see a lot of the cool stuff happening. Plaster Center coordination, we worked with the Chamber and the CVB on some information about the Plaster Center. I included that in your printout. We received a technology transfer grant. That was a big part of the Angelou economic study, was that Pittsburg State University develop a technology transfer program. We received a grant from the EDA to do that, and so we're ongoing study and getting ready to develop that right now. Had a number of alumni outreaches, either in the form of guerrilla gatherings or through web or PSU Magazine. And then I'll let Blake talk a little bit about workforce development.
Yeah, we just continue to work on workforce development, working with CTEC and BEA and organizations like that. Also looking at issues like the child care capacity issue that we've talked to you about. It seems like those intangibles, those fringe benefits, are playing an increasingly crucial role in economic development, not only the recruitment of new employers to our community, but keeping the ones that we've got. Our unemployment rate is at 3.5% right now, and that's the lowest it's been since the 1990s. So that means that our employers are very competitive for the kind of employees that they want, and that they're looking at not only the wages that they're paying, but also the benefits that they offer their employees as well. And we meet with them to give them advice and expertise on how they can not only better recruit employees internally, but also from other parts of southeast Kansas and southwest Missouri as well. So again, in working with Pittsburg State and CTEC and those organizations, continuing to focus on workforce development. I feel like we need to stretch a little bit more.
I have a question.
Yes,
that'll take up some time. For Sydney, any of those polymer businesses that you talked to interested in working with recycled materials?
They are.
Excellent.
Yes, yeah, and we've been, Daryl has met with a number of different, I know he's talked with Dr. Bailey some and the city some about different recycled materials, including some of the algae and the wastewater treatment plant, some of the technology there. We also, recycles has become a big piece, and so we have a really great relationship with Dr. Triplett, and so we ask him, is this possible? And he tells us yes or no, and then we tell them, so.
Awesome.
I have a question. Go ahead, Chuck.
Yes, could you, because people might be listening at home, what does the taxpayers pay for the college participation in this?
What's
the fee, the yearly fee?
For the contract?
Yeah.
Yes.
I believe this last year was 55,000.
40? Okay.
Yeah, 50.
You don't know?
50.
50,000? And the chambers?
45,000.
45. So it's the same as it was last year?
Sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My question, on this piece of information up here, what does technology transfer mean?
Yes, I've gotten that a couple different times.
Smiling about that.
Well, because I get that question all the time, and it's kind of hard to explain. Basically, in its simplest form, it's disseminating information from one piece or some kind of technology or innovation or scientific advancement and converting it into disseminating it to the masses. So the easiest way I can explain it, and especially in the context of what we do and what's most important in economic development, if there is innovation, ideas, patents, processes developed at the university, that's that intellectual property capital, and we work with economic development agencies and businesses to take that information, that technology, and use it in a commercial practice. That's the best way that I can. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
It even can be something like, we know how to write business plans. We have a great college of business, and we work with entrepreneurs to put together their business plan. So it's something as simple as that, up to a polymer, a new scientific discovery, a patent, that kind of thing.
Okay. And I have another question. On this one sheet that we got, under the goals, under actual, what does converted mean?
That means, so we had 9 leads come through. Converted means that they actually are doing business or projects here
forward,
instead of,
okay.
Yeah, so 3 of them didn't choose to go forward with something.
Got it. Thank you.
And oftentimes when a project comes to either PSU or us, often we talk to them, we make sure that they've vetted the idea, because sometimes just in asking them tough questions, you discover that maybe they haven't thought through it as much as they thought they did, and sometimes you save them from making a very big and expensive mistake. by pulling back and making sure that they've got their numbers correct before they move forward. So the fact that they're not all converted is not necessarily a bad thing.
Sure. Sounds like you've been busy. Thank you.
It's been good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Probably so.
I think,
All right.
yeah.
Moving into the main agenda, item A, Jolly Fox Brewery Project. Consider the recommendation of the Economic Development Advisory Committee, the EDAC, to provide a loan in the amount of $200,000 to Joel Stewart, Brandon Davis, and Safali Nursariwala.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
First try. Good deal. For the Jolly Fox Brewery project to be repaid over 7 years at 5% interest, contingent on the approval of conventional financing. Blake and Joel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I want to point out that that is punch from the back that Mr. Stewart is drinking and not some of his own product.
He knows me too well.
We have been working with Mr. Stewart for a little over 5 years on this project. Most of these economic development projects really do take quite a while to come to fruition. But we have been working with Mr. Stewart and the other gentleman that you mentioned on the Jolly Fox Brewery project. The EDAC considered a request last week for a $200,000 loan to complement the $2.4 million that this project will be worth. It was something that they, I think, were interested to hear more about because as Joel will go into the craft brewery phase, it is something that's been a high growth area of the economy. But not only do we not have any in Pittsburgh, I don't believe they have any in Joplin.
No,
Either as well. So
they have one, a small one that's starting up in Webb City. I don't know where they're at the process, at their process, but they do have one in the works.
So anytime we can get something that Joplin doesn't have, we jump all over that and try to make sure it comes to fruition. So before I talk about the specific recommendation from the EDAC, I thought it'd be helpful for Joel to give you a rundown of the Jolly Fox.
All right, so this is our updated logo. We partnered with Connor Gurr and Associates over in Joplin. They're an architecture firm, and they do a lot of marketing, so they can kind of blend their design with the building, with your logo, and so that's why we went with them. This is our facility. We'll have 75 seats in the tasting room itself. We'll have an outdoor area. You can see we've got maybe some foosball off to the side, not foosball, but some bocce ball off to the side. We might have some cornhole, whatever you want out there, but there'll be a nice outdoor area. We actually have 2 seating patios out there, one along Broadway, then one outside between what is now Rigid Designs. So there'll be a nice little nice little area between that place that you can sit outside and have a beer. So this is the tasting room. This is the rendering of the tasting room. You enter. We have laser. Okay, so up on the left there, you enter in off Broadway, and you walk in, and we've got the bar in the back there. And behind the bar there's the glass, so you'll be able to sit there and you enjoy a beverage and kind of look into the brewery and see all the tanks. And if we're working, you'll see us working. Just a few TVs in there. We've got a local guy custom making those lighting fixtures, so that will be the lighting that we have in there. On this front part here, we're actually in the process of trying, right there when you walk in the door, you got the 3 panels there. We're actually working with the architect to remove that. We'd like to have a little gas fireplace in there, a nice little cozy place you can go in there and sit and have a beer in front of a fireplace, kind of give it a little extra draw, nice warm atmosphere. So this is the outdoor patio area. So the ones along Broadway and then the ones in between. We've got economically, we went with the metal building, save us a few bucks, but we went ahead and felt like, with the color choice that we have, and accentuate that with some pine or some cedar up along the building, it'd give us nice atmosphere, nice feel to the building, and save us a few bucks if we would have went with like all brick or something like that. So kind of a happy compromise there. So our slogan is for craft and community. It kind of goes hand in hand. A brewery is kind of involved in the community. I recently got elected to the sustainability board to kind of work with the city and kind of work with the sustainability. It kind of fits along with with the brewery, you know, working for environmental purposes and stuff like that, and kind of keeping it local and helping out the community. Some of the logos on the
Product.
merchandise there, you know, growler, can, and stuff like that, just kind of give it a feel. This is all done, you know, with CGA. They kind of did all this presentation and stuff like that to kind of give a feel of what it is, shirts and stuff like that. And so we're kind of in the rough stage of the menu, just kind of, you know, a cheeseburger, bratwurst, Reuben fish and chips, a couple of Indian dishes, a flatbread pizza, some nachos, just something to kind of complement the beer. We want to let the beer shine, but have some food to, you know, if you're hungry, if you're having a couple of beers, you want to have something to eat, but nothing. Our focus is not to compete with the other restaurants, but just give something to, you know, our patrons something to eat there. We also, my company is contracted, and I took over operations of Christine's Vineyards as a startup of a vineyard over in Webb City. We made the equivalent of 10,000 bottles of wine this season. 2,500 of those are committed to the Jolly Fox for payments. I mentioned this as, you know, I oversaw, in the past 2 years, I took a winery that I'd made 5-10 gallons of the grapes that, you know, I'd go there and harvest these grapes that you see up here, make 5 to 10 gallons. And then this year we made 2,000 gallons of wine. So I successfully took, you know, a small operation and took it to a large scale operation. Just FYI there. Some of this is, you know, we're going over in the EDAC meeting to kind of justify our projections of what we made, what we're projecting to make the first year. So I had a study done a while back on, you know, comparisons of some of the other businesses in the area to show that we had some reasoning behind our projections, and that, you know, we're not over exaggerating anything. We're actually fairly conservative, I feel, on our projections, and hope room to grow from our projections there. Coming soon, Jolly Fox.
Thanks, Joel. As I mentioned, this is basically a $2.5 million project. Most of the financing is coming from private sources, not only the principal's equity or the money they'll be injecting into it, but also conventional financing. They have anticipated a $200,000 gap in their financing, so that's what they applied to the revolving loan fund for. So that's that's the request that the EDAC considered last week. I think the EDAC, it's safe to say, felt like it was a good project. They had a lot of discussion on when exactly the city's money would come into play. We followed back up with the accountant that Joel has been working with and asked if the city's funds could be made contingent upon all of their other financing being approved, if that would meet their needs, and they said yes. As you can see in the agenda request, the city's funds would not be dispersed unless all of the other funding comes to fruition. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have, unless you have something to add.
Point out, there's 3 of us involved in this, like you mentioned. I'm the brewer, you know, and kind of oversee the day-to-day operations. Brandon Davis is a CPA. He owns his own firm over in Joplin. He's a minority owner in this also. But he'll go in and make sure, you know, everything's up to snuff. He can take care of the business side of stuff and let me focus on the marketing and manufacturing the beer and overseeing the operations. And then the other gentleman, AJ, is we call Ajit Nuradasari is his name. He's the main investor in this project. He owns several old Chicagos. He owns several hotels, and he is providing us the growth opportunity to ensure this venture is a success. So that's the history of the 3 of us involved in this. I, being a resident for about 13 years of Pittsburgh, so and that's why we're putting it in Pittsburgh. This is where I live. I don't want to drive anywhere else. I want to drive a few blocks to get to brew beer. I don't want to, you know, spend 30, 45 minutes driving to brew beer.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are the 2 businesses, the Jolly Fox, the brewery, and the winery, under one, or are they 2 separate?
It's separate entities.
Okay, so we're just funding the brewery.
Correct.
In Pittsburgh. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I noticed reading through our information that this is formed under an LLC,
Correct.
and you three have signed a pledge to back this 200,000, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, we have a.
This is for Henry. So with an LLC, I mean, I'm asking this question not to disparage you all, but to find out from my own mind. Under an LLC, if it does go south, where do we go to get this 200,000? Can we can we just go to this corporation, or can we go on back?
Anytime I prepare loan paperwork for an RLF loan that you approve, it's signed by the individuals. They personally guarantee the loan.
So the LLC does not stop us from going.
Yes, we would still have recourse against the individual investors as well.
That's one question. The other question is, I noticed that you have this area to consume your product that faces Broadway. Is that within code? Can we drink on Broadway?
Yeah,
I don't know.
as long as we're within the perimeter of their establishment, I think you can.
Yeah, as long as it's on private property.
Okay, that's all I have.
And also did want to mention that this loan is being repaid over 7 years at 5% interest. I forgot to mention that.
Any other questions?
If there's none, I move to approve.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joel. All right, now that we are a set of 5, let's jump back up to the city commissioner appointment. So, appointment of a city commission member. Mayor Jeremy Johnson, yours truly, has resigned his position of the city commissioner effective December 31st, 2018. Appoint a new city commissioner to fill the vacant position with a term beginning on January 1st, 2019 and concluding in January of 2020.
Mayor, city commissioners, I think at the last meeting we had the recommendation that we would allow individuals up for boards and commission spots, specifically in this case, to speak. So I would be happy to time keep, because I definitely think that helps everybody in the room.
And the time parameters?
And that what I would leave up to you. Tell me how much
3
time.
minutes would be sufficient, I think.
So 3.
Yeah.
So anybody that's speaking, I will do something like this with a minute left, so you don't get
Start flailing around
you don't
and
get
let you know
the
to stop
clapper
talking.
and it all stops. But yeah, and with that, I'll leave the order up to. We do have a ballot. We'll be taking a ballot vote when everybody that wants to speak is done. So I guess we could just go in order of the ballot.
Sure.
Does that work for you?
Yeah. Is Brandon Graham here? Oh, Brandon? Okay. BJ.
Fantastic. Always want to go first. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to apply for this open position. Mr. Mayor, wish you luck. I'm honored to have an opportunity to fill this vacancy. My experience is pretty broad. I've worked in a few different aspects. Most recently, and most probably relevant, would be serving as a board member on the USD 250 school board. Did leave that position because of possible nepotism and wanted to make sure that that wasn't a factor, and so had to resign that position. I'm very interested in remaining active in public service. My time on the USD 250 board was probably some of the most rewarding service I've ever had. I've had an opportunity to serve the community in a lot of aspects with my position at the Convention and Visitors Bureau. If you look at my resume, obviously a lot of public service and organizations that I was a part of throughout the community, throughout the county. Beyond that, I worked at a statewide level in the tourism industry as the vice president when I left that industry of the Tourism Industry Association of Kansas. So I've had an opportunity to travel the state of Kansas. My current position as the executive director of the Kansas Shrine Bowl allows me to travel the state of Kansas and meet with municipalities and meet with communities and get to learn from others, a lot of others of a similar size to Pittsburgh. And I hope to bring some of that knowledge back with me that I learned from both the tourism aspect and also being a client to some of those communities in the state of Kansas. I really look forward to giving back to the community. That's something that's a base for my family. Anybody who knows our family, that's one of the things that's important to us is giving back to the community. And so I'm hopeful to do that in this capacity. If not, we'll find another way to do it. But I'm hopeful that I can bring some of that knowledge, some of the leadership that I've had, back to the school board. That gives you an opportunity to work with a large budget, work with taxpayer dollars. That's experience that I think I bring that might be unique to this against the other candidates. Also, I don't think there's any expectations of having to replace the city manager, but I have been through a process of replacing the head leader of a community and so of an entity in the school. So I can bring that experience to the table as well. So I appreciate your vote and your support.
Thanks, BJ. BJ. Jim Hoskins.
Oh, look, I've got a knee issue. Commissioners, Jim Hoskins, 801 Elmwood Lane here in Pittsburg, Kansas. I think most of you have seen my resume and my application. I have 40-plus years experience in business and in finance. I have served on numerous both civic and professional boards. I recently was the chairman of the Kansas Bankers Association, and since that time I have retired to Pittsburgh. I serve you in the city of Pittsburgh on the Economic Development Committee here in town, which I thoroughly enjoy. And other than that, I really would open myself up to questions because of my experience and because of what you see on paper. It's probably more up to you to ask me a question than it is me to redo my pedigree to you. Is there any questions? All right. Thank you for consideration.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Gary Jones. Gary here? No? All right. John.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. I'll be short. I'm dealing with a horse problem here. Most of you know me or have worked with me before on the commission here. I spent 7 years on it, so I have an idea of what we're doing and where we're going here now. You all have my application in front of you. Other than that, I'm the same way. If you have any specific questions, I'll be glad to answer those. Otherwise,
I don't have a question.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Dan.
Hello. What an honor to be here tonight, and mine's going to be a little more scripted. Got the nerves going. It's just an honor to be here. Dan McNally, lifelong Pittsburgh resident with a history of commitment to this community, especially to children and families, those struggling with addiction and mental illness. Project of local schools, Pittsburgh State University, have a bachelor's in social work from the University of Kansas, actually graduate on Friday with a degree in clinical psychology from Pittsburgh State. Worked here for the last 17 years, 3 at Crawford County Mental Health and 14 years at the Family Resource Center, serving on boards at the YMCA, Southeast Kansas chapter of National Alliance on Mental Illness, and recently on the City Sustainability Advisory Committee. What can I offer? My work in education offers unique insight into what children and families need to thrive. My board work has given me experience on tackling financial and program and planning demands. Then work on the Sustainability Advisory Committee has given me insight into how government functions. Most importantly, as a lifelong consumer of city services and a dedicated community member, I believe I can offer insight and a desire to improve existing services and to facilitate the creation of new ones. From parks to roads to community centers, I have seen the community meet the needs of its people. And I was going to go into more, with time restraints, I was going to talk about our original swimming pool, which was a rectangle and a high dive. Now we've got a beautiful aquatic center. To think about the library and the additions there. And then to think even right here, today we had, the police department and the fire department sharing one building at 7th and Pine. And look at the beautiful services we have now. They didn't come without resistance, but they were necessary to attract and meet the needs of our current citizens and attract new ones. This is something that I've considered doing for a long time. I wanted to make sure that the time was right. In July, with my graduate studies behind me, I jumped at the opportunity to serve on the Sustainability Advisory Committee, and that experience really lit a fire within me. Equally, my desire here is driven by all the things I see going on, all the great things. Success is made possible by the work of many dedicated individuals, most of them who are in this room tonight. So I want to give you guys all credit for the great things going on. I could, talk about everything going on. I was up in Kansas City this weekend for Chiefs game and Jayhawks game, both successful, but with old friends who were, I didn't have to tell them what was going on in Pittsburgh. They told me. They're proud. I'm proud. As a lifelong resident, I've never been around for time. I agree with the sentiments. I think with I-44, with 69 going to I-44, we have even a better opportunity to build on this. It's an honor just to be considered, and I would love to be on this commission. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan.
Dan? All right. Amy.
Good evening. I was before you all 2 weeks ago, so I don't really have much more to say about myself than I did 2 weeks ago. I am a Pittsburgh transplant. I went to Pitt State graduate. I've worked for Names and Numbers for 11 and a half years. I have the desire to get more involved in my community. I started with applying for the advisory board. This came up. Like Dan, I have been considering running for a city commission spot when it comes open. This came open, and I felt like it was an opportunity that I just couldn't pass up. So, do you guys have any questions for me? Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Amy. And F. Ron Siegley.
Dr. Siegley called, said he still wants to be considered. He had a patient emergency, was planning to be here, couldn't make it, and please keep him on the ballot. And I said we would. So.
Okay.
That's 8. You guys have a ballot in front of you?
Yep.
Do we have a drum roll?
We might. Let's see what we got.
Are you drum rolling or am I?
I'm not very good at it. You should.
Congratulations to Daniel McNally for.
All right. Congratulations, Dan. And thank you for everybody that applied for the position. We appreciate your commitment to Pittsburgh and hope that you'll find other ways of putting that stuff to work because we need it. We need lots of people working on it.
We need
Don't forget to register to run the next time elections come around.
And we still need you to actually vote.
Yes.
Oh, to accept, right, yes. Okay, so is there a motion on the outcome of the ballot?
I move to approve.
Go
ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
All you.
Oh, second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. Jumping back into the agenda for this evening, we are on item B, Economic Development Services Agreement. Consider approval of the Economic Development Service Agreement, including Exhibit A, between the Pittsburgh Area Chamber of Commerce and the City of Pittsburgh, in which the Chamber will perform the services related to the location and retention of industrial, manufacturing, and retail businesses in the city for the year beginning January 1st, 2019, and expiring December 31st, 2019. Jay.
Hi, Mayor and Commissioners. I think you've, obviously, it's no coincidence that we had them give their presentation before these contracts came up before you. But I think you've also had a chance to kind of see how this relationship we have with the city, with the chamber, and with the university is kind of is starting to evolve. I also think you can get a sense that we're starting to hit the ground with some pace here. There's certainly a lot of good synergy between all three of us right now. The contracts in front of you right now have not changed from dollar amounts from previous year. There's still $50,000 for PSU and $45,000 for the chamber. And there's a few, the chamber's contract is essentially the same as it was last year. We made a few tweaks to the university's contract to kind of reflect some of the things that have evolved with the university itself, as well as our understanding of what we need from them for economic development purposes. We kind of more explicitly talked in terms of PSU's contract. Some of the changes were that we specifically called out and requested that identified the coordination with other aspects of PSU that we already get, right? But we wanted to make sure that, and they're already doing that. But we were more explicit in the contract this year about coordinating with, say, the Kels Business School and the Tyler Research Center, things like that. We were more explicit about it. We also we were a bit more explicit. There's a lot of confidential information that we share, so we're a little bit more explicit about our core requirements in the contract this year as well. And this was for both of the contracts. We also, and I think you got a sense from Sydney when she was up here, we really had them focus in a couple of areas in their contract on the target industry analysis that Angelo Economics had performed. Really wanted them to focus their efforts on those areas and where they could bring the university's resources as well as alumni resources to bear on those target industries. We also wanted, there's a few more details I think that we need to be clear about in terms of what kind of consulting they provide to the community. There is a great deal of that work that's being done, and sometimes it isn't always clear as to, in terms of what they provide to the businesses and to the other industries in the community. So we want to be explicit about that. And finally, we explicitly called out some better coordination in workforce development and specifically the BEA. So those were kind of the changes that we made in the contracts this year. Dollar amounts have stayed the same. We really feel confident this year that we're kind of hitting our stride with economic development in terms of our efforts. And a lot of the efforts you're seeing being made right now are starting to bear fruit, and I think they'll continue.
Are there any questions regarding the motion?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. You talked about the target industry analysis. Could you educate me on that, and what is your expectation for our partners?
Economic development can be a very broad thing.
Right.
Bring the specific components of economic development that the university is involved in is new business creation and attraction. And if you go out there with a shotgun, it's much harder to hit anything meaningful. All right. So the target industry analysis, that was the contract that the chamber had overseen with a consulting group that identified areas within the city that Pittsburgh is well suited for business to develop.
And how old is that data?
Is it 2 years? It's 2 years old. 2 years old. Yeah. So this is a kind of information that isn't going to change dramatically in a brief period of time. These are target industries that we are structurally as a community suited for on a number of levels. The polymer business is one of them that Sydney had talked about. There's a food processing. There's a number of them. I could get into the target industry analysis, but these are things that we've specifically identified objectively as being things that we're well suited to grow.
So how did you incorporate that as an outcome of this scope of work?
Well, we specifically added into the contract that their focus will be on those target industry areas that are identified by that study.
Any other questions?
I would add that there are a great deal. We're also, because we're maturing as an economic development entity group, we are adding what I would call much more demonstrative statistics and data that I think is really serving us well. And PSU has done a really good job of starting to collect some of that information. Those numbers really help us show if we're having an impact.
Well, I know last year, excuse me, sitting out there, there was a lot of talk of regular check-ins, which I think we did this year. Is there a point at where you feel that there needs to be some more meaningful data shared during this process as opposed to kind of the overview that we've been getting?
I think that's actually anticipated throughout next year. Now that we're starting to collect the data and starting to look at how well we're doing, I think it's something we can easily share with you on a regular basis, certainly quarterly or more often if you like.
Any other questions?
There's no further questions. I move to approve.
I second it.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item C, Business Development and Innovation Services Agreement. Consider approval of the Business Development and Innovation Services Agreement between Pittsburg State University, PSU, and the City of Pittsburgh, in which PSU will provide support to the city to effectively help create and attract new businesses, industries, and manufacturing concerns to the city, as well as more effectively promote the expansion and growth of existing businesses and industries already located in the city for the year beginning January 1st, 2019 and expiring December 31st of 2019.
I lumped the two together in the last I don't have anything else to add, I guess is what I'm saying. So I apologize if I confused the two contracts for you. But the changes to the PSU contracts there were more changes to PSU's contract than there was to the Chamber's contract, specifically around those focus areas. In those.
Commissioner McNay, I don't know what information, hopefully you have the same information in front of you that I do, but in reference to your question about the target industry analysis, if you look at the scope of work under PSU's contract, under item 2,
What
D is in Darren. That's just a coincidence. It specifically says creation of target industry analysis, stock proposals for potential industry business location, and then it has an item under that to send the slide. Your point's well taken. We paid a lot for that information, that data. The first year, I think we kind of stumbled out of the block because we were contracting and setting up the PSU organization. Blake has obvious responsibilities on the Chamber's scope of work, but the target industry analysis relates to the university, as it relates to entrepreneurs and development of those kind of jobs will fall more under this contract. It is specifically listed in here, and that was a great question, and I want you to know that Jay wasn't just saying, hey, it's in there. It's in there.
So is this year 3 of this relationship between the three? Okay.
Well, for all three of us. We've been doing it with the Chamber for some time.
Right, but, okay.
Okay. Any other questions about this item?
I move to approve.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Jay. Item D, disposition of bids. Bids were received on Tuesday, December 11th, 2018, for a full maintenance contract with monthly inspections of elevators and lifts at various city facilities for a 3-year period from January 1st, 2019 through December 31st of 2021. Staff will provide a verbal recommendation for the award of this bid.
Thank you, Matt.
I should have done both of them, but anyways. For elevators, we took bids. We solicited 6 different elevator contractors that are licensed to work in the state of Kansas. Obviously, we took... Oh. I know. Anyways, the low bidder today was Tyson Krupp, who's held the contract for the last couple of years on the elevator maintenance. So,
where are they located at, Matt?
Springfield. I mean, they've got national offices, but their local offices in Springfield.
And how long they've been doing it for the city?
They've held the contract the last contract period.
Okay.
And then Kone Elevators had it before them. So. But we also solicited to Dover, Otis. There's one other, but anyways, that's the bids we received today. So we should be able to enter into a contract with them if you approve them.
Well, how often do they come and inspect the elevators?
It's a monthly inspection, yeah, and that's a regulation. They're under regulation to do that, provide safe, and then obviously if there's part of their contract is for general maintenance, but any kind of abuse or any kind of failed or out of service part, we pay separate. But the daily maintenance and or the monthly inspection includes general lubrication and inspection and minor type repairs.
And how many elevators and lifts do we have?
I did not get the contract put it out, but we've got 1, 2, 3, like 7 or 8. There's 2 passenger elevators, a stage lift at Memorial, freight elevator at the water treatment plant, elevator in this building, elevator in the fire department. Oh, and one in the library.
There are no questions. I move to approve.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item E, disposition of bids. Bids were received on Tuesday, December 11th, 2018 for annual service of inspection and maintenance of fixed location generators at various city facilities for a 3-year period from January 1st, 2019 through December 31st of 2021. Staff will provide a verbal recommendation for the award of the bid. Matt.
So again, we took the bids on this. Central Power Systems out of Liberty, Missouri was the low bid. This is for all our fixed generators, water treatment plant, memorial, this building, fire station, a couple of our lift stations, those fixed generators, and that it has a checklist of maintenance type items. Also includes oil and filter changes and lubricants, and then they also have to obviously engage the generator and make sure it transfers power and runs the facility that it's appropriate or as appropriate for a term of time, and then note anything else that needs repaired above and beyond.
And how often do they come inspect the
They'll come annually, just once to each location. They come to each location once a year and
Who
do
was
that.
the contract with last year?
CDL.
What's this 3%?
That is in case of the local preference. I just put that on there for your local preference.
Right.
So, and obviously our contract has, they're a new vendor to us, but we do have, if for some reason something goes haywire or whatever, I mean, we will have contract language to separate if need to be, but.
There are no questions. I move to approve.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Matt.
Got Matt.
Item F, resolution number 1215. Consider approval of resolution number 1215, authorizing and providing for the public sale of general obligation bonds, Series 2019A of the City of Pittsburg, Kansas, setting forth the details of said sale and providing for the giving of notice thereof. Jamie.
Previously, we've you all have approved resolutions authorizing 4 different projects that are going to be going under construction here shortly. Silverback Way Street project, the Gatteridge Sports Complex for 2 restroom concession stand facilities, the North Walnut extension between 29th and 28th Street, I believe it is, and also the signalization of Quincy and Rouse intersection. And this is just a legal document that needs to take place for us to issue bonds for these projects. And the bonds, we'll take bids on the bonds on the January 8th meeting, first meeting in January. Then we expect to close on the bonds in February, first week of February. So we'll get the bond proceeds. And the first payment for the bonds will not be until March of 2020, be interest only. And then the principal and interest payments will be due on September 1st of each year, and this will be a 10-year bond issue. Is there any questions on this? We'll be bringing some more ordinances and legal documents at the January 8th to make this all official at that time as well. This just authorizes us to go ahead with the bond sale.
There's no questions. I move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right. So before we go into executive session, are there any non-agenda reports or requests from staff?
We do have one. Jay?
I do. As you know, we've discussed making some modifications to the technology in this particular room. We do have some funds available in the building funds that were originally for construction of this facility, and We have made some considerations about what changes need to be made, what we can do. We've looked at various, we've gotten some quotes back from some vendors, and we have gotten a quote back that we're very comfortable with. And what I'm asking you tonight is to approve a quote from Southwest Audiovisual for $89,710 to do the technology improvements for this particular room and the related audio, visual, and media work that we do in here. All right. To kind of give you some background, obviously this stuff is 10 years old, right? Hasn't been replaced. It wasn't particularly new technology when it was put in. It's not bad technology; it just wasn't state of the art at the time. There's been a lot of work that's been done to maintain it, keep it working. As you know, I think we've had some stumbling on some of the technology that's happened in here. What we're trying to accomplish here is, first of all, to bring it up and to make it a platform so that we can continue to be clear and transparent and engage the public as much as we can. There's a number of things that we're going to be able to do with the new technology. I think one of the things that we've talked about for a long time is we want to be able to allow the full experience if you're remote, so that you can see all of the documents that are being displayed. You can clearly hear and interact easily. You can see what's going on the cameras. This system will give you the ability to do that. All right. Everything will be in high definition. That's not a selling point for me, but it is for the public. It does help. It does make for a much better video on the various medias. Right now, when we post it to our social media, we actually have to download. The way it has to work right now with our technology, we download it to a CD, and it takes hours. It takes hours. I know. It's not good. We will. Right. This will dramatically decrease the amount of time it takes for Ryan to put it back and get it ready to post. That really the technology back there has been pieced together to allow us to do what we're doing. There's probably about 10 pieces back there. This is all going to be one unified console that Brian's going to have, or whoever's working that is going to have. Really gives us a production capacity. It's simple things that you would expect to see when you're having a formal meeting, like we're having here. Captioning. Right, like right now, the camera would be showing me saying Jay Byers, deputy city manager. All right, and then when the mayor's speaking, it would say whoever mayor. So just some simple things so the public can see better who's talking right now. The screens titles and transitions are easier. Just a much more of a production worthy effort. Microphones, we've had some sound issues. There's some dead spots in here. Some places where you're standing and getting an award, and we can hear you in the room, but the public can't hear you. All right, so we're going to have a much better audio around. This will allow us to stream, to do live streaming to multiple sources simultaneously. All right, so this is a real quantum piece up. Anyway, we have taken. We had two other quotes, one from Mission Electronics, one from Kansas City Audiovisual. Missions was $182,000, Kansas City Audiovisual was $128,000, and the Southwest Audiovisual was $89,000. So we feel that this is a really good bid. We also had the opportunity. First of all, they've come down on 3 occasions when we've asked them to talk to us, look at the room again. We've had a chance to look at some of their installations here. They provide the audiovisual for the Bicknell Center. So that is and they've demonstrated that to us. The Bicknell Center is very, very happy with their audiovisual system, or their AV system. We also feel pretty comfortable that the technology that they provided us is very rock solid and state of the art. So we've talked about this for a long time. I don't know if you've been on the commissions for a while. It has been something we've been thinking about. We do have that. We are wanting to get. There's some disruption that has to happen to the room. We are going to have to actually cut into the cement to be able to allow it to happen. Wow. So we wanted to get this all done over the break. We have about 3 weeks here where we've already talked to them. They think they can come in and do what they need to do. It's also going to involve replacing the carpet. All right, we're going to replace the carpet with 2-foot squares, which is not much nicer. So there'll be 2 TVs, a projector. There'll be displays in the commission desks underneath. So there'll be a flat display for you. Anyway, there's a lot of things that I think are going to dramatically ease the work that you do when you're performing your role here.
Say two things. The configuration is going to change, so we can actually see one another. And secondly, this is just to remind everybody, this is also the municipal courtroom, so there's a lot of other considerations just outside of. It may seem like a lot to do for, I don't know how many meetings we have a year. The court's in here every week. It has to work for them. And,
a lot of public meetings, a lot of other public meetings.
It's a well-used room, and your completion date.
We're going to get the disruptive work done over the break, right? The rest of the technology, we're going to put it in a timely manner so it doesn't disrupt everybody, right? And it works with their schedule of the people working in. The dais is not going to be done right away. It's much harder to find someone who can do cabinetry work at this level than it is to find someone who can do the electronic work, right? So, and there's some design considerations we have to keep in mind here. The dais will likely be a horseshoe of some sort so we can see each other better. We have a limited space here because that wall comes out, so the dais can't be a heavy horseshoe. So with the design, we haven't fully designed the dais yet, so that's not going to happen. We also have some issues with where the judge sits, and he doesn't, so that that judge can't disrupt the view of the other commissioners. So there's design issues for the dais that you're all sitting at right now. That will not be done until it probably won't even. We won't even think about starting that until January and probably February. All right, in terms of the furniture part of it.
Is that part of the 89,000 or not?
It is not. It is not. The 89 is for the technology.
Are we going to be able to reuse or sell the existing technology?
At this point, it's about 10 years old, and we've been piecing it together for many years. It has very little value, right? If you were to put it out on the market, you probably get something for it, but it doesn't have a ton of value. Right? It's not something that anybody putting in a new system would want. Right?
So changing this setup, can that be done by city employees?
The dais itself, right. Yeah. We asked them about that. That was the first place we asked. It's a specialty kind of work. They can do it. Of course, they have a lot of other jobs to do as well. And given the integration with the technology we're looking at, we think we would be better served by a professional providing it, someone who does this for a living. The other thing too is understand when we do it, it'll be a fast turnover. I mean, they're gonna build it in their shop and then put it in here and install it over one day. All right, so that's another factor that our shop isn't really well suited to do that kind of fast turnover work.
Is there any way for us to know how many people view this live? Do we have a Nielsen rating for the?
I don't think we want one.
We do not. We do not. No.
We can know like YouTube views though.
We can look at YouTube views.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's amazing the number of people who stop me and comment on seeing this.
Mm-hmm.
No, the news does. Any other questions about what we're doing?
If there are no other questions, I move to approve.
I'll second. It has been moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Awesome. Thank you, Jay.
Good job, Jay. That's all.
Is that it? All right. So we are going to recess into executive session in order to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to KSA 75-4319B1 to discuss the 2018 evaluation of the city manager. I will
so move.
Need a motion, and then Henry, we need a time limit, correct?
So, yes. It's got 60 minutes on the request there.
Okay. So I will take a motion for 60-minute recess.
So move.
I second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we move into executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We are in executive session for the next hour. Doctor.
Yeah. They had a choice between staying and have bamboo shoved up under their fingernails. I think they decided.
All right, we are finished with executive session. No votes were taken. No decisions were made. Being out of executive session, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion. I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we are done. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.
Let me give you.
Doctor.
Yeah. They had a choice between staying and have bamboo shoved up under their fingernails. I think they decided.
All right, we are finished with executive session. No votes were taken. No decisions were made. Being out of executive session, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion. I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we are done. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.
Let me give you.